Hello, everybody, and welcome to the entertainment headquarters. And it's time for another action-packed review. And the film I'm here to look at now is none other than A Working Man. Now, A Working Man is directed by David Ayers, and as you can see, starring Jason Statham. The biggest thing also when it came to this film, it's also been co-written and I think executively produced as well by Sylvester Stallone. Now, Sylvester Stallone, he's the action star of the 80s and the 90s, and it's nice to see him work with another massive action star. I guess the action star of the moment, Jason Statham, and come up with another really great, compelling story and movie for him. Now, Jason Statham and David Ayers are no strangers to one another. They worked together on The Beekeeper, which came out last March. So March seems to be the month of Jason Statham all of a sudden. And, that was a fun movie. It was, an over-the-top throwback to late 80s, early 90s movies. It was just a blast. It was about this guy who wanted to revenge his, the woman who was looking after him, who, commits suicide after all her inheritance are stolen from her, via, being tricked by this company who it leads all the way up to the presidency. And it was just a fun thrill ride with a lot of over-the-top moments, a bit of sometimes over-the-top goofy acting. And Jason Statham in that particular movie was very straight-faced, didn't really show emotion. He come across like he was suffering from PTSD. You didn't really get much of a backstory on his character other than he worked for the secret organization that keeps everything level-headed called the Beekeepers. And apparently there's a sequel on its way, so that's going to be a lot of fun. But now we have A Working Man, where The Beekeeper was very high octane action, over the top acting, and some of the action in it was just crazy and big and bold and loud. This takes, in my opinion, a simpler tone and look and is a lot more grounded than what we got in The Beekeeper. So let's have a look at A Working Man. As I always say, let's get cracking. A Working Man is a 2025 American action thriller film directed by David Ayer, written by Ayer and Sylvester Stallone, and based on the 2014 novel Levon's Trade by Chuck Dixon. It stars Jason Statham, Michael Pena, and David Harper. There is a lot more characters and cast members to this. The other main one I'll mention is Ariana Rivers, who plays Jenny, who is the daughter of Michael Pena's character, and she is a huge part of this. And then there's a mixture of other characters who are the majority of the villains of this movie. So straight away, let's talk about the plot. The plot of this movie is simple. A working man. Jason Statham is an ex-Royal Marine, British Royal Marine, who's now living a beautiful life in, I guess, the US of A. He's the father of one daughter who we're introduced to early on in the movie. His daughter, obviously, there's this kind of tug-of-war between his ex-father-in-law and him for custody of the daughter, which plays a real part of the movie. On top of that kind of scenario that's going on in his life, He has been working, I guess, as a construction foreman for the Garcia family, who are a massive development company. And this is Michael Pena's character, who is the leader and the head of that family. This is Jenny, his daughter, who works for the company firm, but is also at university finishing her first semester. And it feels like the backstory that you kind of told is that Jason Statham's character was basically left the Royal Marines. Michael Pena's character kind of seen something in him and given that an opportunity and give him a job working for his firm. And because of that, it's kind of in some ways helped him build whatever life that he's started to build for himself. You also discover that his wife, his daughter's mother, unfortunately, there's a circumstance with her that transpires, which is another reason why there's a lot of animosity between the ex-father-in-law and him, and it leads to a point where Jason Statham character needs money to basically go to court to fight for custody of his daughter. And I think this job brings him balance and brings him security, and he's very grateful to this particular family for everything that they've been able to bring to him. But then events transpire that the daughter, Jenny, who does come across as a bit of a spoiled brat who seems to always get what she wants, she decides to go out with her friends one night to celebrate the end, I guess, of the first semester of their last year at university, when suddenly, she is kidnapped after being, surveillanced and watched by a character known as Viper, who seems to be watching her and taking photos and videos. He sends the photos and videos to some mysterious individual, and she is then decided she's been selected. She gets selected, and Viper and his consort. So this is the character of Viper. He's a bit of a prick. This guy and his comrade is known as Armoris, and she is a bitch. She is a complete bitch, and because them two are working together, they basically kidnap Jenny, and she is sent away and is being, human trafficked to the richest bidder. And when she doesn't come home that night, Michael Pena's character is totally, distraught, doesn't know what to do. He begs Jason Statham characters, for help to basically bring her home. And at first he's very hesitant and turns down, the opportunity to bring her back. But in the end, he does the right thing and goes, you've been there for me. You've helped bring some kind of stability to my life. I'm going to bring your daughter home. So there's a lot of heart in this in the beginning. There's a lot of there's a lot of heart in this. There's a lot of meaning at the beginning of this. And, even though he's very still straight faced, and even though he doesn't still show a lot of emotion or depth, I do believe this character that he plays in A Working Man is a deeper character and has more of a backstory and more things you can connect with than the character he played in The Beekeeper, who was just a loner who lived on this land with his bees, just, suffering from PTSD and just lived by this code. This character in A Working Man seems to have more heart and has more reason to want to do the things that he's doing, and it's to thank the people that helped him, which is very admirable. And along the way, you meet a host of characters. Like, one of the characters you meet is David Harbour's character, who basically is somebody who was who was a serviceman as well, who, thanks to Jason Statham character, was saved. He's a blind character. He's living a peaceful life, but he wouldn't have had that life without Jason Statham. So he's very grateful, and he helps him with anything he needs, whether it's moral support, somebody to talk to, or if he needs a couple of guns. And he doesn't just have little itty bitty guns, he has the best guns, the biggest guns possible. And he goes to him for advice, and he ends up going on this mission to find Jenny. And along the way, things get deeper and deeper, and more secret or more reveals are happening. So it turns out that the person that is kidnapped and is running kind of this trafficking organization, which is this douchebag. He actually is the member of a huge Russian mafia family in a huge Russian mafia organization. And so Jason Statham's character kind of gets deeper and deeper involved with this family in trying to just find Jenny, and more people are killed along the way, including this douchebag, who was like a higher member of the mafia family. He meets an untimely end thanks to Jason Statham. And as you can see throughout the story, throughout the movie, he gets deeper and deeper involved, and he gets more and more to the point where he's got to, get bigger guns, bigger weapons, and deal with bigger and badder douchebags along the way. And the plot for me, it's not an original plot. We've seen this done in Taken. I've got vibes of Taken in this. I got vibes of Commando out of this. Vibes of many well-loved classic 80s and 90s actioners. But the thing I liked about this the most is where the beekeeper is very fast-paced, very simple plot, gets his motivations, he goes after the people that caused his friend to commit suicide. And he's just got that one mindset of, this is what I need to do, that's what I'm going to do. And he's following the rules of the beekeepers organization and all this. This, though, where that film was very OTT at times and kind of sometimes over the top, acting like Jeremy Irons, oh my God, he's a beekeeper. Stuff like that, crazy stuff. This film is a lot more grounded and a lot more slower paced, and I feel takes itself a bit more serious than The Beekeeper. And that's what I generally think pulled me in more and made me like about it. It made me like the character of, the character that Jason Statham was playing. I felt more of a connection with him, and I felt more connected to him, and I believed in what he was trying to do more. He gets involved to try and just save Jenny, but then it's all twisted around where it's connected to this massive Russian mafia, and he has to get even further deep. He kind of goes undercover and has another identity for a part to get involved, to discover who's not just the not just the trafficking side. He has to get to the trafficking side and who's behind that. He has to get involved with the drug trading within the mafia. So he goes to this bar and meets this huge guy. I have no photos of this character, but there's a guy that he meets at this bar who is a huge guy, who is also an ex-serviceman. And when he first goes into this bar and asks, to buy some drugs, this guy instantly is just put off with him, and he tells basically all the guys that are around him, all these kind of cronies, all these henchmen, to basically go and beat up Jason Statham's character, and Jason Statham goes to town on them, totally wipes them out one by one. And then straight away he recognises these skills. He must be an ex-serviceman, and there's a bit of this respect, even though he's on the other side and working with the mafia. There's this mutual respect, and because he kind of showed this respect to him, he allows him to do business with him, and he kind of helps Jason Statham get more deep undercover without him knowing. And even right at the end, where they have this final duel and battle, there's still this mutual respect among them because they're ex-servicemen. One's a Royal Marine, and I think the other one was part of the army services. But just great stuff, great storytelling. It's a lot slower paced. The action, when it is there, is great action. There's some great action sequences, some great fight sequences. The characters are believable. Anyone who's a villain, you hate to hate. Anyone who you're meant to, want to, care for, you do generally care for. Jenny, like I say, her character, she started off as kind of this spoiled kind of college student, university student, but then you end up growing a little bit of respect for her because she does become quite resourceful. And there's times where, by now, halfway through this movie, she should have been killed. But she finds ways to survive and to, hold her own for much of the film. But Jason Statham, for me, I think he did a brilliant job with this character. Like I say, it's similar character to the character he played in The Beekeeper, but for me personally, this character has a lot more heart to him. There's much more of a deepness with this character. It feels as if he's generally got things to fight for, and he's generally doing the things out the goodness of his heart because he cares about the people that he's trying to help. Even there's a sequence earlier on in the movie where, these gang members, I guess, who are part of the mafia, come into the construction site and just beat up a fellow construction worker, and straight away he's like, boom, 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 takes him out. He's like, you guys leave, do not come back, and you get back to work. You'll get your bonus if you keep working. Just little things like that made the difference for me with Jason Statham's character in this. The cinematography in this, for the most part, is fun. It's great shots of action, but there is a couple of negatives. I mean, negatives I would say is I don't know if everybody will like the pacing of this movie because it's a lot more slower paced. Like I say, I think it feels more grounded, more serious than The Beekeeper. So the pacing's very slow. It's a 2.5 hour movie. Some people might think they could have cut half an hour off the movie, but I personally found the pacing great in this. I loved following the journey of the characters. The other negative, it's quite dark. And I don't know if when you see some of the action shots, if with it being dark, if people are going to blink and miss them. I personally appreciated it. But I did notice the great thing about this. Every time there was a shot of Jason Statham, for example, there was kind of a light. There was always like a light or a glow around him. But then if you had a character who was, say, a villainous character, they always had somewhat of a dark colour around them or a redness around them, and I generally wonder if that was done deliberately to differentiate who the hero was and who the villain was. And if that is true, it's a great technique. In all, like, apart from them negatives of maybe the pacing and it being slightly dark, I really enjoyed this story. I think it's a story that was better than the story overall than in The Beekeeper. Not that the story in The Beekeeper is bad, but that for me is like a don't take it too serious, just switch off and enjoy what you're seeing on screen. This for me had a little bit more to it, a little bit more realism to it, a little bit more grounded, and a little bit more heart to it. And I love the fact that you got a little bit of Jason Statham backstory being this character who wants to fight for his daughter, and then ends up fighting for another family's daughter. What more can you say? And he does the job great. So David Ayers and Jason Statham, another great team up together. And I think another great thing, another key to this being a better movie slightly than The Beekeeper, is the writing of the film. And that's down to Sylvester Stallone. He was a co-writer on this movie, and I think he did brilliantly with the work and the material, converting this book into this particular film. I think he did a great job, and it's just a fun, overall fun film. So that's my opinion of The Beekeeper, not The Beekeeper, the A Working Man. Two great, film. And I do think the way this film sets up, it could potentially be a sequel. Just like The Beekeeper is getting a sequel. And with The Beekeeper, I hope they go deeper into the law and the history of the organization of the beekeepers, because it, very much like John Wick, it's set up, this organization that, thins the line or makes sure that, everything that should be happening happens, and it happens in a certain way. This, however, does set up a potential sequel due to a certain character who isn't satisfied by the outcome of the events of the movie, who screams out loud due to things not going his way. But if I'm going to rate The Beekeeper, I'm not The Beekeeper, A Working Man, I'm going to give this a solid 9 out of 10 because I loved it. I loved the action. I loved the story. I liked how it was trying to be more serious and more grounded. So 9 out of 10 from me. If you've seen A Working Man, let me know in the comments below. Let me know if you prefer this or The Beekeeper. Let me know if you want to see a sequel. Let me know in the comments below. But this has been just another quick review from me. If you like what you see, please like, share and subscribe to the Entertainment Headquarters. And like I always say, keep on enjoying your movies. Keep on enjoying all things entertainment. And I'll catch us all at the next one.